being heavy-handed.
Well, they don't want that either. But I'm saying, suppose the region says, suppose there is a league from the region, and they say, we please, NATO, United Nations, United States, come to our aid, because we may lose this thing because of the superior air power Colonel Gaddafi has.
And he does have superior air power to the rebels and to the people. But I also know there are other ways to deal with this, Charlie. I think you're going to make matters worse. I think this country would make matters worse. NATO would make matters worse if we begin some airstrikes and if we begin some military maneuvers and could ground troops maybe. That could happen. That could be the outcome of that. And so I shudder to think of what the reaction would be in the region and even in Libya once that occurs.
Can you imagine a place where you'd like to see you think it would be in our national interest to see an employment of American forces overseas?
In a war?
War or otherwise. I mean, would you want them in Korea? I know you.
He was a 25-year military, so I was raised on.
I know you were. But in terms of, is there a philosophy behind when you want to see American forces employed in harm's way?
Sure. I think our forces are always in harm's way, and I think that the nature and the character of the military has to change with the 21st century. There's so many issues, development issues, peacekeeping. I think our troops have done remarkably well in peacekeeping efforts and in trying to keep problems and conflict from arising. And there could be situations where we have to use military force, but I think the way the world is now, with nuclear weapons pointed in all directions, thank God our president, is a supporter of non-proliferation and has signed, the treaty. But I think that it's important to recognize we live in a very dangerous world, and we do not want our troops in harm's way with every conflict that emerges. But I think our troops are doing a fine job now, but they need to really, I think the Defense Department needs to really begin to redefine what our mission is in the world as the world in which we live in.
In which we have serious economic issues, including jobs that you referred to.
Yeah, here at home, when you look at the unemployment rate, look at the unemployment rate in the Black and Latino community. I mean, nationally it's still too high, right under 9%, 15.3% in the African American community, and that's just what is counted. That's a shame and disgrace. And then when you look at the disinvestment of funding in many low-income communities, when you look at poverty rates increasing, when you look at childhood poverty, and when you look at the lack, thank God we have a health care reform bill, a law now that, the Republicans are trying to get rid of, but people still need health insurance. People have lost their homes. Communities were targeted by these scam loan artists, especially, again, in minority communities. And so there are many, many, many pressing needs here. Young people need jobs. We tried to get a summer youth job program passed couldn't get it done.
Right.
So
there are more women in the Chinese government than there are in the American House of Representatives and Senate. What's happening? Why aren't we seeing more women like Barbara Lee in the Congress and the Senate?
I've thought about that a lot, and I'm going to tell you, I think a lot of it has to do with money. This system of financing of campaigns is horrendous. We need public financing of campaigns. I mean, can you imagine raising $2 and $3 million, $4 million per congressional seat? Women are coming from a place not of parity or equity at this point. The same with people of color. And so until we have a financing system, a campaign financing system that's fair and that allows for the participation of women, I think we're going to see these big gaps. So the influence of money in politics is very shameful, I think. I detest it. But I think that has a lot to do with why women don't want to. I've talked to a lot of women to encourage them to. They don't want to have to dial for dollars 10 hours a week, raise money, do this. We have a job to do. We're trying to save the world. And to have to raise money like that, I think, is a deterrent for a lot of women.
Thank you for coming.
Glad to be with you.
Great to see you.
Really good.
Congresswoman Barbara Lee.